That's not my outfit.
It's Death by Monsters.
Welcome, hello, and welcome, you sordid squirrels.
I like that one.
This is Death by Monsters, a show about monsters, mysteries, and the unknown. I'm joined by Paula Deming.
Hello, everyone.
And Nick Murphy.
Yes.
And I'm Matthew Jude for some reason.
Aww.
So this week's episode is on the truly, deeply, creepy, freaky, and all-out god-awful phenomenon. I almost referenced Savage Garden then by accident. Known as the Black-Eyed Children, or Black-Eyed Kids, or BEK for short.
Yeah, I was going to say not to be confused with the Black Eyed Peas. Let's get it started and let's get it started in here.
If you'd have made a BEK reference, I'd have respected you.
No.
Also, I can't reference Beck songs because his songs are too sad and I can't.
Sad music is the only music that I appreciate, but it also makes me too sad.
That's not true. You love Call Me Maybe because everyone loves Call Me Maybe.
Well, of course I love Call Me Maybe. I'm not a monster, but
Yeah,
I'm
of
saying
course.
Tom Waits and Elliott Smith are probably and Townes Van Zandt, they're my favourite artists, and it's just a pit of loneliness. So the Black Eyed Kids, or BEK for short, though explaining that abbreviation has taken more time than I ever actually get back from using it.
Oh, I literally just got it. Okay.
Okay.
BEK, Beck.
There is nothing more terrifying in this world than the soulless, wandering bewilderment of a child. But when you add in black eyes, knocking doors in the dark of the night, and the possibility of aliens, hybrids, angels, or even demons, this peculiar paradox, this devilish disco, this bizarre, which does work.
Is that
It works.
Bizarre Bazaar? Like Bazaar?
Yeah, you said bizarre. There's an A in the other
I mean,
one.
that's just the title of a chapter from Series of Unfortunate Events, right? The Bizarre Bazaar.
All I'm saying is it's weird, okay? It's weird, it's all over the internet, and I read some books, and now we talk about it for a 45 to an hour. It's the whole premise of the podcast, so buckle up.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah, and I make your life difficult while you do it. Again, the whole premise of the podcast.
And I'm here for my body.
Hi. Hi, if you're new to the podcast, you now have an explanation of what it is. Nick's hot bod, Paula ruining things, and Matthew doing a bunch of research and then trying to talk to us like a reasonable person for an hour.
Well, it's really Matthew trying to get in his jokes and then us constantly interrupting him until he screams at us.
That
It's
is
mostly-
true. I take back the reasonable person part of my description.
Whether these pesky monsters are vampires, demons, or just dicks, here's what to look out for in the dead of night when the door knocks and the dog stirs. When the
Alien
cats
kids in
stare
dead
into the
of
darkness
night,
and you tuck your
knocking on your
feet.
doors, they wanna fight.
Honestly, Paula,
What?
I'm gonna have to kill myself.
Please don't. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna let you get through your intro.
When the cats stir into the darkness and you tuck your feet back under the bedclothes, it's meant to be creepy. It's not creepy now because you're singing
It's
the
not
bloody
nearly
beat.
as creepy.
It was good though. I made that up on the spot.
Black-eyed kids are typically described as being around the ages of 9 to 16, and while their behaviour may be atypical and their clothes might look slightly off, the biggest giveaway, unsurprisingly, is their completely black eyes.
That would be the biggest giveaway, yes.
It's true, and for any Star Trek fans out there, yes, a little bit like a Betazoid, but if Stephen King had written the character trope.
Yes.
Look, I know that Paula knows who the Jem'Hadar are.
Yeah, I had a nightmare about them the other night.
And you're the odd one out this time, Nick.
Yeah, that's true. Star Trek, whatever. Who cares? Data, right? Data's in that? Or something?
The Jem'Hadar is Deep Space Nine.
Who's the guy who's got the sweet glasses? He's like got the Cyclops glasses.
That's Geordie LaForge,
Love those glasses.
and he's in The Next Generation. He's pretty great, except he has a few little social issues.
He does have social issues, and I don't feel like they treated his character very well because he kept on being very unlucky in love, and that was basically his whole thing.
He's kind of like the nice guy of the, and you're like, ooh, maybe just like change the way you behave slightly, and maybe it'll turn out okay.
But does he have like Cyclops' powers? Is that why he has the weird glasses?
Of course he has Cyclops' powers.
He's blind, and so
Oh.
the glasses help him see.
I legitimately did not know that. I thought he was just wearing dope-ass glasses.
Black-eyed kids speak in a monotone and emotionless voice, not like LeVar Burton in the slightest, and give the initial impression of their being lost or helpless. And while sometimes alone and sometimes in couples or groups, they almost always have one thing in common. They want to get into your house.
Let us in.
They want to get invited in for reasons unknown. My guess, chocolate milkshakes and murder.
They go so well together. That's like
do.
the name of like one of those like at-home murder mystery parties
Yeah.
that like the community theater in your neighborhood like puts on. They're like, join us this Valentine's Day for chocolate milkshakes and murder.
Sometimes crime is sweet. Yeah, I can get those things.
Oh, we've made something really beautiful right now.
BEKs have a somewhat blurry history in the world of folklore, high strange, and fact. And while some reports say they go back throughout time, some that they are a figment of the forums, and some say that they go back at least to the modern times, the 1980s, they have been the subject of newspaper headlines. However, I'm using the word newspaper broadly, as broadly as I can actually, because the newspaper in question was the Daily Star, which was, I describe as a filth rag, I guess.
Is that like the National Enquirer?
Yeah, they ran headlines such as Plague of Black-Eyed Ghost Children, The Pub Cursed with a Black-Eyed Ghost Child, and my favourite, Screaming Black-Eyed Ghost Terror.
It's a bit of fear-mongering happening, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. What's their motive?
The Daily Star is more famous for being racist, and also headlines such as Monster Rat the Size of Cows, Flesh-Eating Zombie Chewed Girl's Face Off, zombie there in quotation marks for legal reasons, I presume.
Yeah, because it was just someone on bath salts.
Crazy.
My favourite headline of all time, actually, is from the Daily Star, and it's simply this: Crabzilla.
Oh my gosh.
What's Crabzilla?
Who knows? But actually, the Irish Daily Star once ran with a headline that simply read useless gobshites, which I'll admit has a dramatic flair that I have to respect. But many believe the most tangible modern evidence for the BEK phenomenon goes back to a little year I like to call 1996.
Best year of my life. I was 7, crushing it.
You were 7?
Yeah, I was 7.
Holy
I was born in
my gosh,
1989.
I'm so old. I was in 6th grade in 1996.
Yeah, and I was like in 3rd grade. I'm not that much younger than you. You're acting like you were like, I had 3 kids by that point.
I was like 12 years old.
I've been divorced twice by 96. Whatever you were doing, let me paint a picture for you. Children around the world were playing their brand new copies of Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey on the N64.
True.
Independence Day is playing in theatres across the country.
Such a
Great
good
movie.
And boy, you better believe the Unabomber Theodore Kaczynski gets himself arrested after the release of what I can only describe as the most boring manifesto of all time. Seriously, It's really bad. Paula,
Yes.
if you go on to write a manifesto of some sort, just get someone to check it over is all I'm saying.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to send my manifesto to you first.
Yeah.
Have you read it, give me some notes, edit it, punch it up a little bit, ghostwrite it, add some jokes, and then send it back to me, and then I'll release it.
It's that Paula Deming. She's definitely psychotic, but she is hilarious.
Got a lot of quality jokes in there.
That's all that really matters.
It's true, but what annoys me most about the Unabomber, other than, the bombs,
Yeah.
is that he has such a sweet deal going on, cabin in the woods of Montana, a bit of a trust fund. I'm not saying I'm jealous. I don't want to be the Unabomber, but, sometimes you don't know what you've got until it's a booby-trapped cabin owned by a madman.
It's true.
The story goes that in 1996, a man named Brian Bethel had an encounter of the spooky variety and takes it to the internet, whether directly or indirectly through friends, only later posting it formally to clear up any confusion. Nice job, I guess, as it's filed under mystery. Anyway, not important. But on August 28th, 1997, on a Usenet forum, we learn about his encounter, which is now one of hundreds. Bethel, who was living in Abilene, Texas, home to Frontier, Texas, a 14,000 square foot museum dedicated to the American West that I genuinely would probably enjoy.
Yeah, it sounds great.
You should get a job being like a brochure writer. Like, you do so much research for every town we talk about. Like, you should just be writing travel pamphlets for all these places.
I like to have facts about the towns that are pointless, and I like to have facts about I like to tell people what was coming through the radio in the year that I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's great.
It paints a picture.
It does. It really does. Honestly, I love it. I learned so much.
Bethel leaves his apartment at around 9:30 p.m., headed towards Camelot Communications, where he was going to deliver his internet payment to their Dropbox on North 1st Street, downtown, near the movie theatre. North 1st Street being the least imaginative name of all time.
Pretty much.
That night, as Mortal Kombat played, Bethel pulled up to a parking space in the lot near the theatre marquee to use the light to help him write his check. It was there as he wrote whatever it is you write in a check. I've never written one in my entire life somehow.
I'm sorry, stop right now. This is the most mysterious thing I've ever heard in my life. You've never written a check?
I've never written a check. I don't think I've ever received a check. I've never owned a checkbook. I've never had to deal with checks.
Wait, is this real?
Checks are weird. Look,
Have you never had to pay bills?
Yeah, you don't do it by check, though. You do it through the magic of the internet.
You're not that much younger than me. I've written checks to pay bills multiple times in my life.
I can't help it if you're antiquated, Paula. I know you like the 1940s, but you don't have to live there.
It's true. The only thing I used to write checks for was rent. Rent was the only thing that took checks, but even then, now all the rent I've ever done is all online.
I'll be honest with you, I lived in numerous places that like their rent paid in cash.
Okay, now I understand.
awesome.
All right.
When I moved out, I moved into, for the first few years, let's call them some choice places.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
If I'd have given them a check, they would have seen it less of a check, more as a paper trail, I feel.
A threat, yes.
Mystery solved.
But it's while he's writing this mystery note, known as a check.
I can tell you what he wrote on it. He wrote in the to line who he was paying the check to. In the little box, he wrote the number, the value of what the check was. Then below that on the line, he had to write in words.
I know what goes on a check.
And then on the back, you have to endorse it. So he wrote D's nuts.
While he's doing that, he gets a knock on the car window.
Yep.
This startles Bethel as he turns to see two young boys aged around 10 to 14. One taller, wearing a grey hoodie with an olive complexion and brown curly hair. The other, shorter boy, had pale skin, a few freckles, ginger hair, and wore a light green hoodie.
Can I make a confession right now? I talked so much about checks just then because honestly, this story really creeps me out.
Really?
And I was trying to avoid
Talking about
getting
the
to
kids?
it.
Let's talk about it.
Bethel describes the younger boy as having a nervous disposition and looking about the car park. That's right, I'm flicking between Americanisms.
He's so hungry for human flesh. That's why.
Where he says, hello.
Just like that.
Bethel, who at first believed they were just going to ask him for some money, had a quick and daunting change of demeanour for some reason in reaction to the taller boy at the window. Quote, I could feel flight or fight responses kicking in. Something I knew instinctively was not right, but I didn't know what it could possibly be. So, Bethel rolls his window down just a crack, just enough to talk to the boys. They told him that they wanted to see the movie, but had forgotten their money. And so were asking to be let into the car for a ride back to their homes.
First of all, I say no on the principle of, kid, you don't know me. I might not be a safe car for you to get into. Like, don't get into a car with strangers
100%.
and walk home. Like, what? Call your mom, hop on a payphone and call your mom.
Yeah, they're there alone. They somehow got there alone. Either someone dropped them off or they walked there to begin with. So they probably could have gotten that same ride home or just walked home again.
It's 96 and you don't own a skateboard, roller skates, rollerblades, or like a bike?
That's what I'm saying. Or soaps. Remember soaps? Do you have soaps in Britain?
We did.
Well, I don't know. You can move faster when you're grinding on sweet curbs. You remember soaps, Paula?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I remember soaps. They're like skater shoes, but in the middle of the arch of your foot, they had like a plastic thing, and they were used for grinding, so you could run and jump and grind on curves with your shoes.
I've never
they were
heard of this.
Dope and caused so many injuries.
This feels very California to me.
It
like,
probably
dude, let me get some
was.
shoes and do some sweet grinds outside. I'm like, I've never actually saw a kid just skateboarding down the street until I
What?
moved to California. And I was like, oh, I guess people actually do that.
What do you do in the Appalachian Mountains other than soap on sweet rocks? You know?
She wasn't hanging out with the cool kids, that's for sure.
So the chance of them not having soaps is about zero. So I don't believe this story at all.
What unnerved him about this interaction was that the tall boy seemed overconfident, and more than that he was giving orders than asking for a favour. It took some time for Bethel to answer as his feelings of fear and dread built, and the boy seemingly became impatient as he asked them what movie they were going to see. Doing a bit of detective work there, Bethel. They answered Mortal Kombat, as was the style at the time.
True.
And because it was written in big letters on the marquee, and it was easy for them to.
But at least these demon children did their research. They're like, well, just in case this ass asks, let's just say we were watching Mortal Kombat. That's what the kids like, and he was right because that movie ruled.
What if they actually were trying to go see Mortal Kombat, and they thought, well, in the interim, we'll get a ride back with this guy, murder him, and then go in and see the movie.
Paula, you're so right. You are so right.
Oh, that is a possibility I'd not considered. Yeah.
I love that. That's my theory right now so far.
So Bethel looks back at the movie listings and notes that the last showing of Mortal Kombat had come and gone. It's at this time that the tall boy started to try and reassure him, telling him that they couldn't get in to his car unless he let them.
That's a creepy ass thing to say, by the way.
It's a very creepy thing to say.
Excuse me, sir. We can't come in unless you let us.
Just like that. And then he did like a kind of thing, and then his whole face opened from his mouth, and it turned out it was a broom.
I'm going to have to disagree because the next sentence I've written down is, and in what he calls a soothing voice. The boy also kept saying that they would be gone before he knew it. It's this soothing voice that began to distract Bethel, but when he came back to concentration, he realised that he was reaching to unlock the car. As he pulled away from the handle, he also broke eye contact with a boy.
This is so vampire-y.
It really is.
It really is.
That's a pretty common thing in demons. You have to be invited in and stuff like that, right?
But also the kind of the Jedi mind trick hypnotism sort of thing.
Is this vampire that when he looked back, he saw that both the boys had completely black eyes?
So did they not before? See, this is why I call absolute complete BS on this whole thing. First of all, this guy's a journalist. And so he'd be good at noticing details. And the first thing you ever notice about anyone is their eyes. That's where you look. It's just the focal point for people's faces. How would you not know that these kids had all black eyes? You just noticed now? Now? Are you kidding me?
It's dark. He's looking at them mostly through the car window. And I'll be honest, when I'm looking at someone while they're talking to me, I'm mostly looking at their mouth.
I'll agree with that. I usually look at people's mouths too. But you hadn't noticed until now that their eyes are completely black. I understand that it's dark.
From their demon powers.
This is it, their demon powers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking if they changed to black now. It's because if they were black the whole time, I'm calling BS hardcore on this story. Ridiculous.
Well, let's find out what happens. This, as you can imagine, unnerved Bethel somewhat as the ginger boy standing further back began to look panicked, as the tall boy began to demand angrily that Bethel let him in, banging against the glass and shouting that they wouldn't hurt him and that they didn't have a gun.
Oh, so comforting.
There's nothing more reassuring than someone angrily screaming, "I won't hurt you!"
You're yeah, I believe you. Sure, come on in.
Kids are dumb.
To which he replied by slamming the car in reverse and screeching off the car lot away from the boys. But as he looked back to see if they were following him,
they were gone.
Not in a lot, not on the sidewalk, nowhere. It's Bethel's belief, a belief backed up by an encounter he would go on to have with his friend Chad, of course.
Of course.
And two of Chad's friends, both of them who claimed to be psychic. One of those friends claimed that a week earlier she'd had a dream that children were trying to get into her house, and after some time she too had realised that the children had black eyes. In this dream it was felt distinctly that the children, if they had been allowed to enter the house, would have killed her, and Bethel agreed that if these kids had been allowed into that car, they would certainly have killed him.
He can't fight off two kids.
That kids are nimble. Yeah.
My biggest thing with this is I feel like I could fight 10 kids. Easy.
Well,
Depends, man. Well, the leader I don't think was too young. I mean, I think he was early teens, right?
20.
He's 20.
I could fight 20.
you cannot fight 20 10-year-olds.
Of course you could.
No, I think you cannot fight. They will swarm you. All they have to do is get 4 of them, one on each limb, and then it's over.
How are they going to get that close when I'm roundhouse kicking them to and fro?
They're small. They're, like Nick said, they're nimble. They're very dexterous. They can
I would
dart in and
snap
out.
their necks off their bodies.
You would not snap the necks of a bunch of 10-year-olds, Matthew.
Yeah, I would.
If it came down to it, I would.
I'm putting money on you in that fight.
Thank you.
I'm putting money on you, baby.
I want you to win, but I don't believe you're going to.
Have you seen how long my arms are?
Yeah,
They're
seriously.
never getting close to me.
He can choke out 3 of those 10-year-olds at once.
It just takes one that has to get right up close next to you, and then it's done, because your ranged abilities from your long arms can't do anything once they're right up against you.
Here's the thing. 10-year-olds, they're much shorter, prime junk punch range. if any of them go for that, your odds are getting slimmer. Think of 20 10-year-olds junk punching you at one time while one goes for the eyes.
Well, I'd be going for the eyes as well. Just da. Honestly, and all jokes aside, I feel confident that I could beat up 20
Have you
10-year-olds.
taught children before? Have you run a summer camp?
All jokes aside, I feel like I can beat up 20 10-year-olds. What a sentence. That's a great sentence.
20 10-year-olds swarming you? You might take a couple out, but they're going to win.
What I would do is, I would frighten them, I feel, by doing crazy. Kids don't like crazy. Not when I'm doing it. Screaming.
Okay. If that's the tactic you're going to take,
No, I'm going to go calm, cool, collected with it. Here's the thing. They're all rushing towards you at one time, right? There's going to be one that's faster than the others. You front kick that one in the face. He knocks over the 3 behind him. You're only dealing with 14 at that point. 16, rather. And so then you start going elbows and knees. Boom. That's because knees going up, protecting your junk. Elbows and knees. You're knocking them out. They're so easy. I'll take 50.
I will say this as well, Nick, if you're taking that tactic. The tactic I would use, and I think the tactic I feel like Paula would do well with, is if you kill one immediately and make an example of it, the rest of them won't come near you.
True.
You use the one like a ventriloquist dummy, put your hand inside it and open its mouth and say, "You're next," like that, over and over again.
Yeah,
Just like
that's
that.
a good point. You win in that scenario. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one discrepancy with the story.
Oh, there's only one, is there?
That was the fact that Mortal Kombat was released in 95, but in a 2013 article in Abilene Reporter, Bethel comments to the time frame as being spring of 96, so I'm sure that that's not a problem.
Hey, here's the thing, though, because, this doesn't really happen anymore, I don't think, but we used to have, the $1.50 movie theater where after...
This was $1.50. This was $1.50.
Yeah, it was a dollar thing. They did say that.
Oh, great. Then that's why. Because
Yeah.
it comes to the theater after it's done with its main run. It goes to the discount theater.
They're making all their money off popcorn. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why if the movie came out in 95 and this happened in spring of 96, that makes total sense to me. Not a discrepancy.
100%.
Mystery solved. I'm the best monster mystery unknown detective. Fuck.
Wait, you're unknown or your unknown mysteries?
Capital U, unknown,
Oh, gotcha.
monsters, mysteries. That's the tagline of our podcast. Detective.
There you go.
I detect all 3 things.
All right, I have 3 main problems with this. One, I've already said. I cannot rightfully believe that this dude did not notice their pitch black eyes the entire time. I think that's ridiculous.
Mind control, Nick.
Mind control. See, that's the thing is, but we haven't gotten to mind control. I'm just talking about just what he said, especially because he's like, I was staring at their eyes, and when I broke eye contact, I looked back, and then I noticed their eyes were black. That means he's been staring into this kid's eyes the entire time. He never noticed.
Yeah, because they've been hypnotizing him, and so of course he didn't notice. They put a fog over him.
But that's not what I'm just going off of what he said in his story. I am totally all for mind control. Absolutely. Number 2, his whole I looked back and they were gone. I think we very, very often over exaggerate how much time went by and how quickly people can get away if they want to. It probably took him longer than he thought to get out to the road to then look back and see that they're gone. Also, on top of that, do you know how fast you can get away when you're rocking some sweet soaps? If you hit a sweet oily curb, you can get away incredibly fast. Just jumping off curb to curb. 3, these kids, if these demons were even halfway smart, they would not be like, "Excuse me, sir, we're trying to find some money to go home."
Not
or
chimney sweeps.
Excuse me, sir. But if they were smart, they'd be like, "Hey, old man, you want some weed?" That's what they would have done. And I would have believed that story. Drug dealers.
So that is Brian Bethel's story, and to some, the definitive start of the black-eyed children problem. But there are many reports and instances that predate this encounter. In 1982, near Cannock Chase, which is very near to where I live, there was a manhunt organised by police in search of a black-eyed girl that had been seen, which caused a spree of media reports of ghostly apparitions and encounters across the UK. There's a story that in 75, 2 men were going for a drive in Ain, France, in late autumn. They reach the limits of the small town and find somewhere to turn around to head on home. It's there, in the courtyard of an old house, they come across 5 small figures in a group. When they stop their car to get a closer look, they find 5 humanoid creatures with long and oily hair, pale and yellow skin, black eyes the size of pool balls.
What?
Each creature wearing a dress covered in multicolored polka dots. That's less scary.
What?
3 of these figures are off to one side. One is laying its hand on the house for some weird-ass reason.
What?
And the last one is stood in the centre of the courtyard. One of the men
Finish and I'll ask my questions.
One of the men rolls his window down and then makes eye contact with the lone creature, which fills them with instant and overwhelming fear. The creature then indicates for them to come closer, but they drive off at high speed before the encounter could continue. But what makes this French encounter really freaky is that they go back to later on to see if they're still there and they've vanished. Or, maybe they've just gone inside, but vanished, I feel.
Yeah, maybe they just got tired of playing. Like, what about a bunch of kids in a yard is like, ooh, we should stop and look at this. Like, it sounds to me like just some kids playing in the yard. Like, what it compelled them to stop and examine this in the first place?
Freaky black eyes, Paula!
But they couldn't see the black eyes from the distance of the car.
They turn around, they see these freaky black-eyed creatures.
But they were in adorable polka dotted dresses.
That makes it creepier, honestly.
Months later, though, as an investigative reporter did go to the house to search for the black-eyed children, and when they talked to a neighbour, she told them that it was a strange time, as there were indeed 5 children for a time at the house, all dressed in old oilcloths.
Ew,
what
weird.
makes this interesting is also that it's an independently verified and predated account of a similar encounter.
That's weird.
Yeah, eat that one.
Suck on that.
I am hungry, but I don't think I want to eat it. I don't think it's got a lot of nutritional value.
Oh, there's no way they've got any. Maybe some B12, but other than that, just oil. The vast majority of encounter stories with the BEK involve them attempting to gain access to a house or car and not being able to get in unless invited, and them using perhaps some sort of hypnosis or mind control to achieve it, Nick. But it's these creatures.
Nick.
But if these creatures are some sort of evil, they suck at it.
They really suck at it.
As they almost all end with them freaking people out and failing at their attempt. Although, I will say, hundreds and thousands of people go missing every year. Maybe it's the BEK.
That's all of them, every single one.
Maybe it's the ones who did let them in.
That's one thing about this. Is like all the accounts that we kind of researched and talked about. It's like, yeah, they suck at this. They're so creepy and like aggressive. And they said like, so I remember someone saying that like over time the accounts they've been getting more and more aggressive. I'm like, you guys suck at this. Like there are so many better ways to try to like, get in people's cars or homes. It's like, what are you doing?
Nick, how were you at your first job? Were you perfect at it? Probably not. And the reason
No, but I learned
kids,
way faster than this.
This is all different kids, all doing their training exercises before they become full-on aliens who abduct people.
But don't they have some kind of central leadership? I don't understand. It seems like
they have to learn. You learn more on the job with practical.
But it seems like every single one, there's like multiple of these kids, and one is like clearly always like the leader of the group. And there's always like some weird ones in the back, who are just like fidgety and stuff like that. So apparently the leader would be the one. He seems to be the most that sucks the most at it.
Because it's his first time having to do the talking.
Oh.
All the other times he was a weird fidgety kid in the back, but now it's time to try it yourself, and he's nervous.
Come on, Zadok, your turn now. Off you go.
They need some management. They need some real management in these ranks. Like, because they need some training. They're terrible at this. It's been years.
Is it always boys? Does anyone ever report them being girls?
They certainly do.
Nah.
Ooh.
I guess they were wearing polka dotted dresses. So I take it back. That was a dumb question. Please continue, Matthew.
Not at all. We shouldn't assume.
Very true.
You know what? A really good point. Anyone can wear a polka dot dress.
Damn right. Demons, anybody.
There's one report that I saw a bunch of times about one encounter that goes slightly differently. This version I'm going to use comes from The Chilling True Terror of Black-Eyed Kids by G. Michael Vassie.
Cool.
Ooh.
In a slow and snowy town in the arse end of nowhere, Vermont. I'm paraphrasing here just in case you couldn't have guessed that.
Is it in Bennington?
I don't know, but it very well. Probably, let's face it.
That would be interesting.
An elderly couple get woken up by the sound of 3 loud knocks on their door. They get up and open the door and are greeted by 2 children, a boy and a girl.
Hello. I'm doing some live Foley for us while I tell the story.
I can just imagine though, like kids, like evil kids knocking on doors and they keep on getting turned away and they're just walking off going, why don't they ever let us in? It's because you keep on saying you're going to eat their souls, Zadok. That's why. The children didn't make eye contact and just stood there in the doorway before saying, "Our parents will be here soon. May we come in?"
Oh, that's so creepy.
That's even
The
weirder.
couple hesitantly let the boy and girl inside.
What?
The children sit on the couch while the wife makes some hot cocoa and the husband asks them questions that all go unanswered. When the wife returns, she noticed that her cat is scared and angry at the children, hiding
For
under
a
the
second,
couch.
I thought you were going to say the cat was missing and then that the kids had like done something really terrible to the cat. And I'm just really glad it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
Wait, is it about to go that way?
You're not going to like the end of this story.
No.
Then they ask,
Can we talk about writing checks again?
"May we please use the restroom?" They say.
I hate it.
It's only then that the wife looks at the kids to see them as they actually appear, with wide, soulless, and completely black eyes. She directs them to the bathroom and returns to her husband, who is covering his face with his hand. She asks her husband if he's noticed their eyes, but he's too busy nursing a severe nosebleed.
Oh.
It's then that the power goes off.
Oh my gosh. I told you this story freaks me out.
So the woman goes to find the children, but she hears a voice saying that our parents are here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Lord.
And before they can realise what's happening, they'd left the house, walked out towards two tall, men in black looking motherfuckers on the driveway before both the men and the children drive off together. The power then comes back on a little later after the kids left. Throughout the next week, strange things start happening.
I don't like it.
3 of the 4 cats went missing,
No.
Yep.
and the 4th had been found dead in a pool of its own blood.
Oh my gosh. Is this real?
The husband continued to have nosebleeds and finally went to a doctor where he was diagnosed with aggressive skin cancer.
Oh.
Also, in some of the versions, they have a bird who basically blows up in its own cage.
Okay.
That's metal.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh at that part.
That's a metal ass power making birds explode. I want that power.
I needed a comedic release from that one.
I thought that was going to be needed, so I made sure that I did that at the end.
This one's
That
creepy.
is really creepy.
If true, very creepy.
Yeah, it's really upsetting.
That's the problem with a lot of these stories.
I don't see why you'd let these kids in. Like, don't get me wrong, they're kids. I understand. Like, this is why, like, if the Beck children exist, and they sure as hell don't, but just in case they do, I think it's a good thing to be kids because people will usually go out of their way to try to help children. Generally, much more so than like random people show up like, "Hey, can we come in?" They're like, "Fuck you, no." Like, kids, you can usually get away, but like that's an inherently creepy thing. Like, our parents are going to be here. My first question is, who the hell are your parents? Do we know your parents? I don't care if they're going to be here. Piss off. Like, that's what the weirdest thing.
Also, how do they know where to find you?
Yeah, it's like, that's what I'm like, do we know you, your parents? Also, their parents apparently are 2 dads. Right on. That's awesome. I love that demons are that accepting. That's great.
I don't think it's demons. I think it's aliens. And I think their parents are like, either like you just said, Matthew, like Men in Black types or like more grown-up aliens who have come to take them back because they got lost from their ship. It's like the baby alien from Hodges Gap. They've finally been found, but that's why they're like sucking power out of the house. They're like aliens. They probably are emanating like radiation or something. So dude got cancer, the cats died, the nosebleeds. Like, those kids walked into that house and straight up gave everyone radiation poisoning because they're aliens.
Paula, I'm kind of with you on this one, and here's why. It would also account for why they suck so much of human interaction.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I feel like demons would know more about humans than aliens would. I think aliens keep being like, they won't let us in. They're like, what is wrong? And they're like, I don't know, man. They won't let us in. We keep, asking, and they're like, no. They're like, well, just go try again.
Just reassure them that you have no weapons on your person.
Scream at them until they let you in their car. Offer them weed.
I believe they drink oil. So
Exactly. And maybe that's why they seem to not get better at this.
there is actually an on-running thing with the Men in Black and the Beck in general, is that they are not quite perfect at mimicking human interaction, that they do odd things, that they say just the wrong thing, that they're wearing clothes of just the wrong date. That's why they wear black suits, because black suits never go out of fashion. You never look out of date in a black suit.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fair.
So let's go on to the theories, of which there are numerous, each one more freaky than the last.
Of course.
As usual.
While some may say the Beck are nothing more than a roaming gang of goth kids gone wild, the least sexy of all the Gone Wild possibilities by far, there are some theories.
Goth's Gone Wild. That's a particular kind of spring break.
They're just sitting there. The Bek are nothing more than the Darks, with a capital D, numerous minions of the powerful Dracos reptoid reptilians who hate humanity and wish to destroy us all so they can have the Earth free of human contamination. And the Bek are the sentient carrion eaters, which of the reptilian homeworld, or perhaps subworld, would simply eat the souls of the dead. That's not what they're doing here. Here, they've developed a taste for the souls and flesh of the living.
They must be so hungry.
I'm soulless, so I'm fine.
You're safe.
You're not going to get any in Hollywood at all.
That's right, baby. That's why I live here.
And it's all part of their overarching plan to take over the government, pollute the Earth using chemtrails. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And they're pushing industry to pollute the Earth, to terraform the planet to better suit their reptile alien needs. However, that particular theory came from a book that I read that actively asked you to contact the author if you wanted to take up an active resistance stance against an oncoming threat to our world.
Okay. So take that with a grain of salt.
A little bit.
I can't stress this enough. Goth kids can't hurt you. Don't startle them and they will scamper.
Shine a light on them. They'll flee like a bunch of rats,
Goth kids are just trying to express themselves in a slightly different way than the rest of us, and that's fine.
100% fine.
Let them be.
But don't let them in your car.
Don't let them in your car. They'll change or stick to everything. There's one theory that the Bek are something that we may all be familiar with, and that's fucking vampires.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Sure did.
Thank you.
One character trait that follows the Bek wherever they are found is that they can't come in unless they are invited.
Mm-hmm.
This is in almost all the encounters I've read and is somewhat of a fact, for lack of a better word, when discussing the Bek. The other common threads that pair the Bek with vampires is that they almost always come out at night. They are children that never seem to grow old. There are numerous reports of encounters with Beks in elevators and other places where they are being filmed, but once the footage is examined, they can't be seen, and they seem to feed off energy of their victims, with many, many sources saying they feel as though their life, their energy, or even their soul was being drained from them.
They're vampires.
They are vampires. This is the one I like. I like this theory the best. All these similarities seem to point the finger, or in some Bek cases, talons, squarely in the vampiric direction. But one more terrifying, tantalizingly terrible similarity is that Bek seem to possess the ability to both hypnotize and persuade their victims, much like in Brian Bethel's case. He felt compelled to open the door as though he was being willed to do so by the spokesman of the Bek that he was dealing with. I forgot to mention this. The lead Bek in an encounter is for some reason called the spokesman. Kind of feels a little formal. I'd have gone with fuckface.
Fuckface doesn't really describe the role that the
Oh, it definitely describes that role.
the lead kid was playing. So that's why spokesperson is more fitting in this particular case.
But see, that's why I don't like it, because spokesman or spokesperson alludes to the fact that they can speak like a normal human, and these ones clearly can't. So, no spokesman.
We will not kill you. We promise.
We will not disintegrate you and drink you through a straw.
That is a Doctor Who thing. Oh, that neither of you get. Move on.
Brian, look, I know you've had this really terrifying encounter, but you say he was just eating out of a bag of flour with a spoon? That's terrifying.
That's a little weird.
There is another theory that plays into the reptilian idea, but is, well, I can't say it's less bizarre or more bizarre. Frankly, my baseline for what I call counter-strange at this point in my life is so out of sync with a functioning human society that I'm probably the wrong person to make those kind of judgment calls, but it's bizarre. This is the idea of human-alien hybrids. You know, like the X-Files are like so much. Bees! It was all bees! It was always the bees. They're going to kill us all.
Is that from an X-Files episode that I haven't seen yet? Did you just spoil it for me?
Bees, if you've not watched all of X-Files, bees are going to be very important.
I've finished season 5. I need to watch the movie, and then I can continue.
You're going to see a lot of bees coming up.
Interesting.
The best meme of all time is how I react to most things online, which is the meme of Mulder just pouring gasoline all over himself. That's
a
my
good meme.
bee-orientated episode. There is a long-running idea that the whole point of UFO abductions and almost all encounters of the fourth kind, one better than the third kind, where a person sees either an entity or a craft. The fourth kind is commonly distinguished as being an actual abduction. However, hybridization actually starts off as the third or fourth kind and then actually results in the seventh kind, which is not a... Look, the fifth kind of close encounter is that direct communication between aliens and humans. The sixth kind is that of a death directly associated by a UFO or entity. And the seventh kind is where it gets all sexy and classified as, according to J. Allen Hynek of Project Blue Book, Grudge and Sign fame, and he's someone for a whole other episode, as... The seventh kind is basically the creation of human-alien hybrids, either by sexual reproduction or by artificial scientific methods.
I didn't even know there was anything more than the third kind.
There's 7!
I've learned so much just now.
I'm going to single that out and put it at the start of every episode.
I've learned so much just now.
Thanks for giving me a second take on that, Paul. I appreciate it. I think you nailed it.
Splice me saying your name in front of it.
I was going to say, I can find you going, Matthew. Hybridization is, again, something that would best be left to its own episode, and we will no doubt get there eventually. But as far as the BEK are concerned, there are those that believe that the BEK themselves could very well be one of the stages of hybrid life for the half-human, half-alien, or bastard Men in Black. Or perhaps they're simply the hybrids that are here on Earth for whatever diabolical reason, at the behest of their alien progenitors, doing their sneaky BEK plans on behalf of the aliens. Or again, the bastard Men in Black.
Sneaky BEKs.
Sneaky BEKs. New band name.
Sneaky BEK, sneaking into people's bedrooms, playing them sad songs. Get out of here, BEK! I know you're a loser.
So sad all the time.
There's one thing that I think is important to mention before I go on with the last of our theories. And that's the satanic panic of the 80s and the early 90s, which correlates in some ways to the rise of the black-eyed children. Where the yuppie, white picket fence, small-town America, lawn-mowing Geraldo-watching sons of bitches blamed Dungeons and Dragons for all the evil in the world as it was going to turn their children into devil worshippers.
And guess what? It did. And now they have black eyes and they're coming for you. They're knocking on that door and they're going to spread that satanic panic right into your own home.
I didn't think you were going to get that way with it, but okay, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. I knew that was coming.
Get out of here, black-eyed sons of... Go rolling your dice!
Get out of here with your D20s and your charisma checks.
They did not pass those charisma checks. That's accurate.
Do another charisma check. Oh, yeah, you rolled another 0. This dice doesn't even have a 0.
But excuse me, DM, can I try for an intimidation check instead? No, this is clearly a charisma-based task. You need to roll charisma.
Either you have a gun or you don't, Jimmy.
Just a bunch of D&D jokes for you nerds out there.
Nerds.
The Satanic Panic acted in many ways as the Salem witch trials of their era, because they listened to Slayer and wanted a leather jacket for Christmas. This made them evil. The fact of the matter being that some kids are a little bit different, and sometimes that rebellion, that angst, and that culture was so antithetical to the idealism that mainstream media had convinced them that they deserved. If you hadn't guessed it, I myself was a little bit weird growing up. I had spiked hair and black nail varnish, and I very much hated the world because it didn't understand me. And while I still feel that way...
You wore black nail polish on your fingernails?
Yeah.
I believe it.
I bet you're better than me. I was just complaining about how I tried to paint my nails before we recorded this podcast, and I'm too impatient, and I can't sit still long enough for them to dry, and then I always mess them up.
I just did half the nail, so it looked like I had little stubby fingers. That was the look I went for.
Oh, that's an interesting technique.
And while I still feel that way, because I'm a goddamn poet, it didn't make me evil. It just meant that maybe I didn't like football. But this satanic panic, something that rears its ugly head every now and again, may very well be one of the reasons that the BEK have become such an interesting and pervasive phenomenon, which all brings me to my very last theory. Maybe the black-eyed children are fucking demons.
Maybe they are.
Fucking demons.
Now, just to specify, not having sex with demons, but that they actually are demons.
Or both.
Oh, I see. They're not fucking demons. They're fucking demons.
That's right.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the clarification.
But again, yes, they could be doing both.
Who knows? I mean, you know what? To each their own. Everyone has their own kink.
I bet it's good.
Can I take this moment to say I don't think demon sex would be very good because I have a feeling that demons are pretty selfish. I don't think they'd be a very giving lover. So that's all.
It's like, but last time you did that thing I like. And
Like, yeah, that was just to hook you.
That was the hook, yeah. That's the first hit. That's like the first hit of heroin. Whether the Bek are themselves demon entities or perhaps demons who are possessing those children is unclear, as it's almost everything I've said this entire episode, which I appreciate has got slightly more weird than the other episodes, which in itself is saying something. But throughout human history, there have been folklore, stories, experiences, and I'd go as far to say as precedent for possessions of humans by what we conceptualize as demons. Many believe that demons are among us, and while they don't often require consent to inhabit a host, they do need at least some consent to stay within a human. This is why they go after children, as they can be manipulated with more ease. The idea of possession, at least in the modern era, can be dated back only as far as The Exorcist. And if that's your point of reference for possession, then you may be put at ease by the notion that that's not how possession works. At least not how academics in these topics understand the process.
That does put me at ease a little.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to get possessed from touching a Ouija board, you're just not. And while the very idea of demons in Western culture has been streamlined and sidelined to mean one very specific thing, it's important to note that the Greeks, from which the word derives...
Ooh.
Like everything.
Yeah, damn Greeks.
You can say that about every word in that sentence, pretty much. Had a very different definition of demon and certainly demonic possession. Possession was to them a state of mind and not Zadok making you interfere with the neighbourhood dogs.
Oh, Zadok.
But as far as the BEK goes, it's fairly safe to assume we would be dealing with some form of Hebraic definition of demons, and that is the idea of a tempting spirit. The world of demons is a thick and confusing quagmire of bad translations and more of a tangle of cultures stuffed inside a Christian overcoat with the pagan ideas that predates them, and there just isn't enough time to talk about demons to the standard that the topic deserves right now. At the business end of a podcast that started off with me calling everyone sordid squirrels.
That's true. That is how it started.
But perhaps the BEK are demons. Perhaps they are demonically possessed. Maybe they are ghosts or aliens or vampires. I like vampires. I think it's cool. Maybe they don't exist at all. All I know is that if I see a group of kids hanging out, inside a movie theatre, late at night, dressed all spooky and acting weird, I'm going to avoid them because, well, goths are people too. They are weird. And they well call you a sellout for throwing away your wallet chain before you went to university.
Yeah, I've always thought of you as a sellout, Matthew, and now I know why.
Yep.
Goths are mean, Paula. They learn what irony and sarcasm is before the rest of us, and they use it as their main power.
As a sharpened knife, yes.
What do we think? Who thinks what? And why? And when?
I think that it sounds a lot like things that are associated with vampires, but I'm of the notion that it's aliens. I think they're aliens.
Interesting. I'm guessing everyone can just. I think
You
the whole
think
thing
they're
is
just not real.
absolute bullshit. But if they are real, my vote is in the alien category as well. I think it makes the most sense. And I just want to. I'm gonna start saying this every single episode. I would love. Black-eyed kids, if you're out there, to meet you. I would love to meet you in a dark alleyway sometime.
Inviting
I don't.
them.
Nope,
That's
no,
the whole,
I'm still.
were
I'm
you
going.
listening to the story?
I'm
You have to
going.
invite them. You're going to get possessed.
Yeah, why don't you come ahead? Go ahead and come in my car. Come in my house. You know, you have
I'm
an
never
open
getting in
invitation
Nick's
for
car.
me. Please, I don't believe that you exist. Prove me wrong. I would love for you to prove me wrong. So come, let's hang out in a movie theater. You know, in a parking lot someday.
Hey.
Come at me is what I'm getting at. Come at me.
I have something to tell you guys. So there was a little detail that I'm just now realizing I had left out of my home strange story about the lady who came up my driveway. I'm now realizing she had black eyes.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Wouldn't that be creepy though?
It really would.
that would be weird. You're like, wait.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt just right here and now. You may have noticed that this sounds a bit different because I'm recording this in the future. Nick died. I'm super sorry.
Yeah, come at me. Aliens, whatever. Come at me. I think it's the same thing as like the Jersey Devil we talk about. It's like this idea gets in people's heads, so they start seeing the same. I don't know. I think a lot of these things fall into that category
Why are you even here?
because you wanted this perspective on this podcast. That's the whole point of this podcast.
You like Scully, Nick, without any of the sexual chemistry.
Which one's that?
Wait, who am I?
The thing is, you would be Scully, but I've already said Nick Scully now. You can't be Mulder because I'm Mulder. You can be the smoking man.
I don't want to be be the cigarette smoking man.
Can we Hooch from Turner and Hooch? Is that what we're talking about?
I'll be Skinner.
Oh, you can be Skinner. I like
Yeah.
that even better. Skinner is ace.
I'll be Skinner.
Remember when he killed that prostitute who turned out to be Sam Carter from Stargate SG-1?
Yep.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was a good. I have seen that episode, and yeah, whoa.
I distinctly remember that.
Because then he'd have to go back onto the set of Stargate and say, hey, Amanda Tapping, last time we hung out, we did a really awkward sex scene, and then you were a corpse for the rest of the whole show.
Well,
Yes.
welcome to being a woman in Hollywood.
Well,
Accurate.
I mean, she did have a main role eventually. So, yes, Beck, I don't want to be near
Oh,
one.
I do. Come at me.
Doing the research for this made me uncomfortable. I was researching it while I was I'm cat sitting, so I went over to my friend's house at night, like I was alone in their house while I was doing the research for this, and I just got like immediately unsettled looking at all of it. Like it's ugh.
The amount of videos I was watching, so I've read a couple books, but I was also watched quite a few videos because I kind of like to fall down the rabbit hole a little bit. But there is something very freaky about black eyes.
Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%. That's why, like, in every, like, movie, I mean, they did, like, even, like, in the Avengers and stuff like that, when Loki's, like, possessing people with this weird wand thing, their eyes go completely black. It's a very visual, weird, scary thing. Because, again, like, the eyes are the focal point of the face, so it's just, like, them being weird and creepy is very unnerving.
I think, like, because the eyes are so closely associated to the soul,
Yeah.
having a black eyes, fully jet black eyes, no
yeah.
white at all, kind of correlates with that kind of. It's almost uncanny valley as well. It's like you look human, but you don't.
not quite,
You
yeah.
don't look quite human enough,
totally.
which is terrifying.
Hundo.
I also do think that with the Beck, that there might be. Perhaps, let's say Brian Bethel did see something weird. Maybe he had a weird experience, and it wasn't just two kids in cheap contact lenses, for instance. You know, I do think that maybe there was one crazy, mad, axe-wielding clown, but the rest of them were just dressing up as clowns and walking the streets for fun.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yes.
when clowns were a thing?
Yeah.
What a time to be alive it was. So I think there might be, maybe there are, 1% of the stories you read about the black-eyed kids could just be true. And 99% are copycats, which means none of us are safe.
Nope. Pumped about it. Come at me.
Genuinely, I'm never going into Nick's house or his car ever again because
Fair.
he has now invited black-eyed kids to come in, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. So it's been nice knowing you, Nick.
We have already proven that Matthew and I could easily beat up 20 10-year-olds. So
We weren't
black-eyed
talking about
10-year-olds,
demon 10-year-olds,
I'm going at
alien
least
10-year-olds.
18. I'm going at least 18 black-eyed kids I could just absolutely stomp out. No problem.
I was talking regular 10-year-olds. If they're demons, I'm out. I'm going to have to say that right now. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Death by Monsters. It's been real.
Real and weird.
Real quick, do we know what Brian was driving?
Well, I think with such a great getaway, they could only have been driving 100.
Okay, cool. I
Ford.
just want to make sure we
A
knew.
2-door.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Death by Monsters. As you all know, we are sponsored by Coors Banquet and Honda Accord.
I just don't know if we're allowed to say
I honestly don't know either.
We have to be very clear we are not actually sponsored by them, I think.
We're just trying to be sponsored by them. That's really what it is. But thank you so much for listening. The best thing you can do for Death by Monsters is giving us a rating and review, and mostly telling someone you know who might be interested in this kind of podcast about the podcast. If you see someone post on Reddit like, hey, looking for a new podcast, put it on there, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Just spread the word. Word of mouth is still the best way that podcasts get listeners. And so if you hear someone talking about it, talk about us.
My suggestion is creep up behind someone and say, hey, do you like being terrified?
Exactly.
Oh, please don't do that.
Well, then listen to Death by Monsters, eh? If you want to contact us, you can find us on all forms of social media. We got the Instas, we got the Tweeters, we got all that kind of stuff. And if you want to email us, you can email us at deathbymonsterspodcast@gmail.com.
Matthew's having a meltdown in the background.
Yes, he
You
is.
like scary stories?
Exactly. You can email us at deathbymonsterspodcast@gmail.com. And we especially want to hear your home strange stories. So these are weird paranormal stuff, or maybe, you got a weird mole or something. I don't know, something paranormal or weird that's ever happened to you or someone
Also,
you know.
Yo, have you seen a black-eyed kid? Do you know someone who's seen a black-eyed kid?
Please let us know.
Definitely send us an email about that shit.
Yes, every other episode we have a home stretch episode where we talk about something that one of our followers and one of our listeners has sent in. So if you have anything, please send it in to deathbymonsterspodcast@gmail.com. It is super, super fun. And I think that is it.
Also, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Introverted Dragon, Jack195, and Meeple Conrad, who have all done artwork on our Instagram, and it's probably my favorite thing in the whole world.
It's so amazing. I love looking at it. Thank you.
I feel like I deserve to be immortalized in fine paints.
Fine oils. And I think that is it. My name is Nick Murphy.
Hi, I'm Paula
I'm
Deming.
not doing my name again. They should have been paying attention at the
That's
start
Matthew.
of the show.
That's
Jude.
Matthew Jude. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, let's get spooky. I'm trying now to do a new little catchphrase.
Let's get spooky. It's just now.
See you on the next Monster Monday.
Monster Monday I like, but let's get spooky. I don't think it's ever going to work for it.
Okay, hold on.
Get spooky.
Don't get possessed.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.